that I talk a little bit of what I thought was the experience of the PhD for me, and things that maybe I wanted to do more, that I wanted to do less, or things that I would be different. But so I have some route in mind, but I think this is more about the PhDs. So if you have questions that is completely unrelated to that, but that just cross your mind about the PhD or anything else in your life, so just ask them. This is about you. It's not about myself, really. It's to help you somehow, if possible. So why I'm here is particularly is because I was part of the POEMA network. So the POEMA was essentially the predecessor of Tenors. So many of the members you can see in the photo are still part of Tenors. There was some new additions, some people left, but I think the core is still quite the same. And what was POEMA? So POEMA stands for optimization, efficiency through moments, and algebra. So POEMA, I think it had a more focused approach to polynomial optimization. So there was more people doing real algebraic geometry and things more related to the first part of talk of Monique today, I would say. Tensors entered the POEMA in the, as Bernard lecture was explained, that the moments can be related to tensors in a very natural way. So that's why I was there doing tensors. So POEMA started in 2019, the end of 2019. So it was quite particular because as you guys had a lot of have a lot of events planned, we also had, but of course everyone knows we had COVID. So it was something that we had a lot of cancelments in our events and meetings. So I hope you guys don't have the same kind of problems. So this is the first thing that I feel that I would wish that my PhD was a bit different, and it was just a circumstance of what was happening in the world. It was not anyone's fault. But this, I think, it's something that going to schools, to events, is something that is really important for your PhD, and I think you are very maybe I should not say that, but they are very privileged because you have more funds than the extra, the normal PhD. So you can travel more, you can attend more events than a usual PhD. And I think that this is something that also myself at the beginning, I was a bit not so into going to schools unless it was not something that was exactly what I was doing. And I think that this being closed about the research was something that I was doing wrong in the beginning. So I was doing tensors, so I wanted to just go in school that was about algebraic geometry on tensors, and I was not so much open myself in particular to other experiences. And I feel that the PhD is a moment that you should not only be doing research, but is a moment also for you to learn a lot of state-of-the-art mathematics. And so until your master's, you studied a lot of classical mathematics, you should have a good foundation, but now it's the moment also to learn new things that are research topics, but also a bit the side of what you're doing. I think these are the most important ones, actually. The most important schools for you to attend, because if you go to high school that you know already what they are doing, you are not learning anything. I mean, you can have some extra inputs, but it's not the main purpose. So for example, if I'm doing tensors, maybe I want to go to a school about commutative algebra, something like a Lefschetz property. So it's not exactly the same thing, but there's a lot of relations. Something that I learned in that subject may be useful for my research. And other thing is, when you go to events like this, try to be open and talk with a lot of people. Not necessarily only about mathematics, but try to meet people, try to know what they are doing, be interested, because you never know who you are going to be your next collaborator. Maybe someone's doing something that sounds completely different, but somehow you find a connection. and you get along and do our work together. So be very open when you go to events. And I think in schools particular, you should go a lot if possible. Maybe the supervisors don't agree with me, so I'm sorry. Especially in the first part of your PhD, in the first half, because this is where you are, you have more time to learn things. Maybe in the second half, you are already a little bit more worried about what you're going to do next, writing your thesis. So maybe it's a time that you should save a bit more time in that direction. And also, I liked a lot of going to workshops. Actually, the only workshop that I went during my PhD was more towards the end, but it was something that really helped me actually to start my postdoc. So sometimes workshops are organized in a very precise way, in the sense that there is someone that is an expert on some subject, and this person comes and gives you some sort of talk about the state of the art and some interesting questions. And throughout the week, people will divide into groups and discuss these questions and so on. And by the end of the workshop, maybe they put all the questions back in a board and say, okay, who wants to work in which thing? And very often people will say, oh, I wanted to work on this. And then it will really carry on outside of the conference. And there will really be a collaboration. And for me, for example, I went to a workshop. So maybe I talk about this example. I went to this, there was some thematic school in Poland about algebraic geometry and tensors. And it was a semester long. It was from September to December. I went there for a whole month in total. And in the beginning, there was a school. Of course, there was 3 courses. So one was about complexity theory. So it was really close to what JM was telling us today. The second one was about something that's called singular vector tuples. That is very close to what Giorgio was teaching. So maybe he did not mention this word, but there's something really related. And this was what I was doing in my PhD. So this course is something that I knew really well. And the last one was about quantum entanglement. That it was the last talk, and also Monique was talking a little bit in the end of her lesson today. And from the 3, I knew a little bit about complexity, but not so much. And quantum entanglement was something that I had to sing a lot, and I never understood, because most of the time it was physicists using a completely different notation. And by the time that I got used with the notation, I had missed something, and then I was not understanding anymore. So it was something really nice for me to be there, learn these things that were connected to my work. But also what happened there is that I met someone that was working with something similar to me, and he showed me some conjecture in a paper. And he said, okay, I feel that this conjecture is a bit weird, because the authors of this paper had proved some results saying that there was a map that was dominant in some cases because of dimensional reasons. And in the other cases, the domain was smaller than the target. And this, they said, okay, we think that we conjecture that this map will be always injective when this happens. And they had an example, and their example was a counter example. So it was really weird. But they said something like, oh, this is something that probably happens just because tensors in low order and dimension normally present weird behavior. And during this school, we discussed about this, and we actually realized that that example was not just because the tensor was small. It was because there was some large group acting, and that it was invariant under this map. So meaning that you would have a large orbit in the pre-image. So this map was never injected, essentially, for tensors. So this started the collaboration, just because I was there and started to talk with someone. And then we realized that if we restricted to symmetric tensors, it was injective, actually, in some cases. And then we studied this. And this is something that only happened because I went to an event and talked with people about what they were doing and what they were interested in. So I think when you go to, for example, I see a lot of you guys talking with each other, with the professors, and I think this is the right approach. And so keep doing it. Like, it'd be very interesting what other people do. And I said that was very important for me, particularly because this was close to my to the end of my PhD in the beginning of my postdoc. So for me, particularly, it meant that when I started my postdoc, I also had already projects that I was working on by myself. So I had my own research, and I was able to be also independent, not from the early beginning of my postdoc. So I think this was something very positive also. Then I wanted to talk about something that you guys have, that this is something great, really unique, that almost no one else has, that are the secondments. So this is something that I think it's really a great chance to have, so everyone in this network somehow is doing related things. So tensors the main topic, but people do it from very different perspectives. So of course, when you go to a secondment, you are going to see something related, but you are going to have the chance to work with someone else that has a different perspective than your supervisor. So you are going to learn a different way of looking at similar problems, and this is a chance to really expand your capabilities in these problems, and to be able to approach them in different manners, and to have more interesting problems to work on. So when we were in POEMA, we had 2 secondments, but they were short ones. So we had just 3 months in each place. And from what I understood, now it was changed to a whole year, or 9 months plus 3 months. And my opinion is that this is very positive, because I felt that it was really nice already for me to go to other places for 3 months. But I feel that having more time means also that you can really dive deep in the topic, and you have time to learn it in a more organized manner. 3 months is something that is very fast. So if you're lucky, you got an article out of it, but sometimes by the end of it, you were starting to grasp the topic, but the time was over and there was nothing really going so deep that you say, okay, there is a clear path. So this is very positive. So I had 2 secondments, but the first one was at Paris, but it never happened because there was COVID. So I was supposed to go to Paris with Mohab Safei-Aldin, that is not part of tenors. And his PhD, Andrew, was supposed to come to Flores at the same time. So what I mean Giorgio and Mohab, decided was that we would then meet all together and work together on something. And so what we worked was on sum of squares, because it was the main thing of POEMA. And really, just because we had this opportunity, we got an article out of it, because we had something that was different from what I was doing and from what Andrew was doing. So it was also a chance for both of us to learn something different, and we got an article on something that was not exactly the same. So I think it's very positive. It showed that you can adapt to things. It's something that is very positive in academia, I think. And then I had my secondment here in India with Bernard. And this started with a plan to look at algorithms for tensor decomposition. And somehow it derailed, and the derail cause was me, essentially, because I was, at some point, there's something that appeared that was about the Hat's ranks and the scheme length. And it was something that I was really interested in, and the discussions starts to move more towards this. And this was something that I wish it would last longer, because I feel that in the 3 months we did not have time, or at least I did not have time to learn enough to feel confident to actually work on a project. And so it ended up not being an article, this, but at the same time, it's something that I really appreciated that I did, because I learned a lot of mathematics that it ended up being useful for me in the future. So you don't have to think that everything has to become an article. The important thing is that you learn mathematics, because this gives you foundation to continue producing interesting things in the future. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about how it's doing research, at least my experience. So something that, because mathematics is not something linear, no? It's not like, I don't know, maybe it's wrong, but for instance, someone that is doing something is doing an experiment, and then you have a direction, so you know that you're going to do the experiment, you're going to get data out of it, and then independent of what is the result, you're going to interpret what is this result, and you are going to publish an article about it. In mathematics, our path is not so clear. We have a question, we have a goal, and we don't know anything in the middle. We don't have an experiment. We need to prove something, and we don't know how to prove it. So it can be quite frustrating, the research in mathematics, because sometimes you're simply going to take a question and you are not going to find a way to approach it, or you are working a lot on it and at some point you just get completely blocked on it, and it seems that there are no way around. And at least for me, I felt that there was two big risks, that it would be either I would work too much or I would be very demoralized and not work at all. And I think both of them are very bad, because, well, okay, work too much maybe helps, but what normally happens is that you're just worried and you want to solve it, and you end up not being productive. So you're just throwing away a lot of hours without thinking straight. And on the other hand, the same, if you're demoralized, you're just sitting in the office, not doing anything, and the same way, nothing happens. So it's good to find a balance, and also to understand when you need a break. So in academia, we are very lucky also that the working hours are not so clear in some senses. So sometimes we are going to work on the weekends. Sometimes on the Wednesday, I will say, okay, today nothing is working. I will leave the office at 1 o'clock, and that's also fine. So learn also to find a balance on your work. This is at least my experience, that you feel productive and not to fall in any kind of a spiral that you just cannot, how to say, that you feel that you are not making any progress, and the way to solve it is just to work more, because it will not work. But anyway, okay, and also to summarize a bit that this is really real. There is a project that I'm working for 2 years now, and it is 1.5 years that we have the article essentially read. So all the difficult math is done, but all of it depends on knowing the rank of a map. And the 1.5 years that we cannot prove the rank of this map, a linear map. So it should be something that sounds very easy, but we cannot do it. And me and operators will give a break of it from time to time, and then come back after a bit, because it is also helpful in some sense, because you come back with fresh eyes, with fresh ideas, and you try new things. So this is one of my suggestions: is if you're blocked in an article, in a project, try to think about other things. And these other things that you can do is read other people's articles. So this is something that you should do on a regular basis, but maybe this time that we're stuck is the perfect time to read a lot of different articles, see what other people are doing, take ideas out of their work. Maybe there's something that they did that you can adapt, and this may be helpful, but overall it will just help you overall in mathematics. And try to discuss with the other PhDs, maybe also people that are not doing exactly what you're doing, but maybe they have a different take on it. Maybe your problem can be translated to something else, and maybe they have a different take from their field that can be useful for you. So you never know. So tell people what you're doing also. Just know here, also tell the others. And something that Giorgio did that I really liked was that I always had two simultaneous problems. So this meant that when I was blocked at something, I could always go to the other one and work a little bit more on that until I kind of let my brain work in the background what was happening there, and I come back to it then more with new ideas. So this is something that I find useful. So I try to always have at least two things to do at the same time. And then this is a little bit too early, so you should not be worried about what you're going to do after the PhD. But yesterday, when we had this short discussion with you, there was already questions. So I wanted to give advice that is not about your postdoc, but something that I wish I had done during my PhD that I did not realize that was important. Because if you wanted to follow in academia, you are going to do a postdoc. And to do a postdoc, you need to write a research project. And to write, so you, even a short research project, just to tell other people what you're doing and what you plan to do in the next year. So sometimes just 2 pages, not a big thing. But to write a good research project, I think you need good questions. And you're going to be working on projects. And you start with a question. Hopefully you answer it by the end. But of course, during this process, a lot of new questions appear. And some of them bring me very interesting. And so something that I wish that I had done, but I never, because I'm deorganized, was to keep track of these questions that appeared in my work. Because it would have made my life much easier when I was towards the end of my PhD to write a research project, because I had to stop and really look back at all my articles and try to remember what I was doing and what was interesting to start working on it. And a few other advice. These are really early for you to work, but it's a little bit in the same direction to what I was saying before. Try to diversify a little bit. So not maybe the most easy natural choice is to go do a postdoc with someone that is doing exactly the same that you are doing. And maybe this is very productive, but also at the same time, you are not learning anything particularly new. So the postdoc is also a chance to work with other people. And if you can do with someone that is related, but a bit different from you, it means that you can learn something else. And the final thing is you are in a network, and this is really great for you because it means that you have already a head start because you have a lot of connections. There is, I don't know, 10 professors, 12 professors in the network doing things that are close, but not exactly the same to you. So talk with them, learn what they are doing, be interested in what they are doing. You may end up doing a postdoc with some of them. So this was the case for me. I went to Tromsø with accordion that was also part of a POEMA. So, and yes, this is everything that I had to say. This is Tromsø, so it's a very beautiful place. You guys should all come to visit. I think we'll have a workshop there, but come also in the summer because it's really beautiful.